Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Pet Wellness Wednesday. My name is Will over here at My Pet Matrix, and I want to thank all of you for taking the time to come on and learn a little bit more about your relationship with your dog. And today is, remember last week I said if there's something about dogs every single week going on, and actually on Sunday, April 10th, it was National Hug Your Dog Day. And I think that the people that put out the National Hug Your Dog Day, really, honestly, probably should have renamed it a little bit. Not actually Hug Your Dog Day, well, maybe Nationally Show Your Dog Affection Day or something of that nature, because, we're going to be breaking down what's actually happening. Obviously, Tanisha is going to break into the science of it, what's happening internally, chemically, not just with your dog, but with you as well. And then Summer's going to come on and talk about all of the practical type of positive things that come out of you showing your dog that affection. But understand this, okay? There is a right and a wrong way to hug your dog. I know it sounds weird, but there really is, because you got to understand that the affection and the gazing that the dogs do with us when they communicate really started happening when dogs started getting domesticated, right? They were looking for ways to communicate with their humans. So they started taking on the characteristics of humans. And as human nature, we communicate a lot through our eyes. When you think about when you're talking to somebody, and you might think that, they're saying one thing, but maybe meaning another, or they're staring at you from across the room and giving you that kind of loving gaze. And you can feel it. There's a transfer of energy going on, and there's chemical reactions that are going on inside of you. And that happens with your dog as well. And that did start happening when they started getting domesticated. But in regards to the hugging, remember, okay, dogs are descendants of wolves, okay? And wolves, just like dogs, they don't like to feel restricted, right? So, as loving and as affectionate you are, and knowing how your dog reacts, they aren't really capable of understanding that you're giving them a bear hug out of love. Dogs don't like bear hugs. They feel restricted. Okay. And when they feel restricted, they start to, start to jostle and whatnot. And they feel, confined and and all that other kind of stuff that happens with it. So you want to make sure that the love and affection that you're giving the dog is the love and affection that they need, and that they can reciprocate. So coming up and giving a nice, a gentle hug around them without restricting them is always going to be a good thing. So we want to give them the love and the affection that they're looking for, so that they can then reciprocate what we're looking for. And also understand that affection towards your dog and attention towards your dog are two different things. Okay. The attention that you give your dog in that companionship, when you're going out and playing with them, you are training them, you are rewarding them with treats for good behavior and things like that. Okay, that's attention that they need. The affection is different. And Tanisha is going to be talking a little bit more about that as well. And so as you're tuning in and you're listening, and maybe you're taking some notes, and maybe you're making some mental cues of what's going on, some signs that you want to be looking out for, that your dog is not getting enough attention, right? And I know a lot of you, again, I'm just kind of reminding you, spurring you along to some things that you might already know. Look, if your dog is off and tearing things up, all right, let's say the baseboards of your house, something more personal to you, like your shoes, right? They need attention. They need affection. All right. Because they're basically crying out for it. Speaking of crying out, if they're howling, if they're barking excessively for no good reason, okay, they're looking for your attention. Remember, we've domesticated them, right? So we must continue, all right, if we're going to bring them into our homes and be their caretakers and invite them in as a family member, then we need to treat them as such, right? So affection is a very, very key component to that connection that you make with your dog, and understanding also that different breeds have different requirements. Okay. Don't force your own personal requirements onto a specific breed that might not even want that much affection. Okay. If you have a working dog, right, they're different. Okay. They might even be sleeping in different areas. They might even, being housed in a different area. And that's okay. All right. Different breeds have different requirements. So knowing that is also important when you're going out and looking for a dog, as well as the dog that you have in your house, and making sure you're meeting their needs. Because when you meet their needs, okay, they will then meet your needs and requirements. So super important. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to bring Tanisha on with Mr. Nash here. There they
Hey
are.
everyone. Hey, wow, I've been really holding this guy off. I've got blueberries in my hands, and he's been such a good boy waiting for them.
Well,
And this is
Tanisha,
a
please.
really,
There you go.
yeah,
Break in.
awesome. I'm so excited to talk about this because I actually find it really, really interesting in how humanistic it is. When we're talking about bonds, we're talking about attention, we're talking about affection. These are all things that we can relate to being a human. But obviously, we're talking about dogs, we're talking about animals and how special that really is. And the type of love that we experience as we care for our animals, as we see animals walking down the street. I know that I'm that type of person that when I see a dog, I have to stop, I have to pet it, I have to be, oh my gosh, your dog is so cute. But what's really happening there? Well, there is a very specific chemical reaction in the body, and it's from a very specific hormone, and it's called oxytocin. So within dogs and within humans, we have a very specific type of bond that is actually referred to as an oxytocin-ergic bond. Oxytocin-ergic bond. And this is a very specific interspecific relationship bond. So we as humans actually have the ability to bond with and animals and humans have the ability to have this oxytocin release, that feel good hormone. In case you don't know what oxytocin is, it is that hormone in the body that makes us feel good. It is the chemical bond that bonds us to different types of relationships, that feeling of love, the feeling of friendship, other feelings that I'm not going to talk about on here. And it is experienced within our relationship with our animals. So, what does that mean? We're talking about National Pet Your Dog Day. When we are petting our dog, in the action of giving them affection or the action of giving them attention as a form of reward, whether we are petting their head or tapping their cute little booty because they did something really good, we're giving them that positive reinforcement. It is giving them that chemical reaction that creates that special uniqueness of connection between the two. And what I think is so fascinating as well is that this is actually one of the only bonds that can happen with a dog. It's different with other animals. So when we are expressing ourselves or we see that other dog, it's really important to understand that when we are going into that physical action of motion and petting, we're creating, in a way, I know it might sound a little woo woo, but a union with this animal. And there are some dogs that some people, or vice versa, don't connect with. And you have to think about that too. Well, if somebody or a dog is not connecting with a human, what's not taking place? That oxytocin explosion, that oxytocin bond. Because the other thing to remember too is that connections with dogs, just like with people, are very pheromone dependent as well. What are pheromones? Pheromones are hormones that literally you can't see them, but they emanate in odor. And the endocrine system can actually receive the information of hormones that are emanating out of the body to communicate. That's how people and that's how animals gravitate towards each other. When dogs are in heat, female dogs are in heat, and a male responds. he is responding to her emanating pheromones. So that same idea and that same process happens with that oxytocin bond within an animal and a human when we are petting them and showing them that positive reward. And I think it's really important too what Will brought up, making sure that we're petting our dogs the proper way, and that we're not reinforcing a negative behavior. And what I found also very interesting as we're, talking about this and talking about the chemical reaction of bonding and all these things, I found it really interesting that there's a specific study, and I'll definitely go ahead and post the link after this live. There's an actual study that really breaks this down, and it actually states that there's growing evidence that within the dog species, these close relationships that are forming between the dog and human are exact replicas of the bonds that are created between a mother and her infant. So that's a very fascinating thing as well. And within this same study, they found that dogs reacted with much more confidence. Keyword confidence. We actually posted about confidence on our Pet Matrix, my Pet Matrix Instagram this morning. But this study reflected that dogs reacted with more confidence and showed less signs of stress in a threatening situation. We've talked about different environmental factors before, right? Whether it's a moving car, a honk while you're walking your dog, if it's another dog, a person, whatever that type of environmental stressor might be. These dogs showed more confidence and less signs of stress in a threatening situation when their owners were present. And that's suggesting that these dogs, when their owners are present, have a safe haven. So if you take it back to that other noted piece of that study that shows that the human and dog connection is equated to a mother infant attachment bond, that says it all right there. And actually, how important that oxytocin bond is with your dog. They feel safe. They know that you are their protector, that you are their safe haven, just as much as they are ours, of course, as well. But because that established chemical reaction is there. And that to me is just so fascinating and really reinforces how important that is. Even if you're somebody that is going to go adopt a dog, how important that chemical reaction is and that initial moment that you are introduced to that new dog, that you feel that from that dog and vice versa, that that dog is responding to you too, because that bond is what is going to not just propel you to want to be with your dog even further and do these amazing things with and for your dog, but it's going to give your dog a greater quality of life. It is a healing chemical reaction. It is a very healing hormone, oxytocin. And in my personal opinion, it's that make or break bond, that a lot of families have the wonderful pleasure of being able to experience, but at the same time, there's many dogs that don't get to experience that. So I hope that that all makes sense to you and helps you look at the bond with your dog very differently, helps you look at the way that you pet your dog differently and what's actually happening in their little bodies or big bodies and their brains. Back to you, Will.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Tanisha. Appreciate that. How many of us have either said this or have heard this from people, right? I went to save the dog, but the dog also saved me. When we're talking about this, this release of oxytocin, that's not just happening within your dog. That's happening within you. So that means that, because remember, but I don't know if you know, but dogs are on the other side of the evolutionary kind of, chain from humans. And a transfer of energy and an actual release of chemicals within you and your dog says so much about the connection and the depth of connection that can be made. Because like Tanisha said, that mothers have this bond with their baby at the time that they're born. Okay. So, you can have that same type of feeling and reaction with your dog, and it transfers to you as well. I can't tell you how many times I've had a bad day and Bay is right there. She knows. You can't tell me your dog doesn't know. If you have a connection with your dog, if you're doing all these things, if you're touching your dog, if you're being affectionate, if you're, if you're making sure that they're well-rounded and all that kind of good stuff, okay? They sense and they know. And when she will come up to me and maybe jump on the couch and lean into me so I can physically feel her and look at me, you start to feel this sense of ease come over you. Chemical reactions are happening within you. And so it's one of those things that, my dog saved me probably more than I saved her at the end of the day. And I know a lot of you out there can relate. And so I'm going to go ahead and bring Summer on, and she's going to talk about practical ways of why this affection with your dog is important.
Okay.
There she is.
Here I am. Happy Wednesday. Say hey, everybody. All right. Well, thanks for joining us today. Getting to know your dog, your pet is physically is extremely important. Will and Tanisha have talked a lot about the mental benefits and the science of what that touch does for not only you, but your dog too. But we're going to talk about a little bit more about that physical touch related to the care of your animal or the care of your dog, specifically in this instance. Really getting to know them physically will help you to identify potential problems, pain points, maybe something going on that they need some attention to. Come on, Pete. So from the very beginning, and it's not always easy to do because if you've rescued a dog, you don't, it takes some time for you to know what's going on with them, right? Or where they love to be touched, right? I'm sure everybody knows where their dog likes that scratch on the back of their booty and their legs start shaking and they really love that, right? But then there's other things that maybe they don't like maybe to have their ears touched. But we want to know if it's because they just don't like it, or is something more going on? Do they have some inflammation, something, pain in their ears? So, getting to know them and letting them be comfortable with your touch is awesome from the very beginning. So that way you can keep an eye on what's going on, right? You want to be able to, you see, she likes to have her ears rubbed way in the back there, right? Being able to be comfortable with putting your hands in their mouth so you can take a look at their teeth and what's going on inside their mouth, right? Being able to, check out their paws. When it's grooming time, it's really important. Dogs have, some have big long whiskers, right? And you don't want to trim their whiskers. They just like seals and other animals that have them. They have them for a reason. They have them so they can feel things and the change in the wind before something even gets close to them. And they go down into the deep layers of the skin, and they have cell receptors there that help them feel what's going on around them. Not cutting their toenails back too far because you can hurt them and cause pain when you hit that inside there. Also, one of the other big things is getting to really know them and their skin and all their lumps and bumps and things. Even us as humans, sometimes we get something and it's totally benign and there's nothing wrong, but other times we do have things. For instance, Bay, come up here. So Bay has 2 lumps on her back. She's got one just on the edge of her spine, and then she has another one down the side of her back. So, in knowing her, I know when those popped up that they weren't normal. We wanted to keep an eye on them, see what they were. And so we did for a while, and no major changes happened. And we ended up taking her in, and they can do a little test right under the skin with a needle. So we didn't have to put her out or anything. And they run some tests on it just to find out that it's benign. It's like a fatty little thing that, I don't know what the fancy name is for it, but it's nothing that's harmful for her. It's nothing that's causing her damage. It's nothing that we need to have removed. But it is important to know because it possibly could have been. So, taking that time to really have those moments with your dog where you're petting them and using that time of bonding and connection to also know them so that you can be the best pet parent and advocate that you can be, because you know what's good, what's going on, what's good and what's bad, right? when they have inflammation, if something's going on with their eyeballs, even down to their breathing and their heart rate. So that way, if there are any crazy changes, we were giving Bay something, and I realized she was having kind of an allergic reaction to it. She was panting, and all because she just something didn't agree with her food. So just important. The more you know, the closer you are, the more easily you can identify those challenges. So, Bay, you want to come up and say hi, give high five, and tell everyone happy Wednesday? High five up here. Hey, we also wanted to let you guys know that we have been out in full force in public events. We've been meeting lots of dogs, touching lots of dogs, and we are also running our superhero dog contest. So make sure you head over to our Instagram. There's one big image in the grid there with all the rules. It's super easy to do. We just want you to like and follow us, and also our partners at Raw Paws Food. They've also donated a massive basket of goodies and a gift certificate for some free food. That contest runs through the end of April. So you've got plenty of time to go in there and have some fun and show us your superhero dog. Back to you, Will.
Well, I'm just going to bring us all on here to wrap this up. If anything, and you're listening to us here, if you got anything from this, okay, you need to know your dog. And even if they're a working dog, okay, you still need to be there and have them be comfortable with you, so you can be looking at them and checking them over, not just your vet. A lot of the times when you get them to the vet, it might have been too late. You should be doing your own kind of checkups on your dog as well. So, get to know them. They want to get to know you, and just be aware of signs. All right. If you're not normally affectionate with your dog, okay, take it slow. All right. You don't need to be grabbing them and putting your face in their face and show me affection. We're going to release that oxytocin. Let's go. In their time. Okay. They have their own personality. They have their own characteristics. All right. And so we must ease them into it. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. We appreciate you joining us on this Pet Wellness Wednesday. And if you did miss it on Sunday, go ahead and make today National Hug Your Pet Day, or National Hug Your Dog Day, I should say. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Have an amazing day, and we will talk to you later. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.